It is Tuesday, September 29, 2015. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, the focus is on Syria as world leaders take to the stage the 70th summit of the UN General Assembly in New York. Fresh clashes break out in Jerusalem between Palestinians and Israeli police yesterday, who stormed Jerusalem's Flashpoint Al-Aqsa compound as an increase in Jewish visitors to the site over the Sukkot holiday heightens tensions. And later on the show, a lot has been said about the Pope's speech at the Congress last week, but what about the environmental aspect of it? We will take a closer look. Good morning, I'm Yael Levy, and we begin in New York, where the Syrian conflict is at the center of intense diplomatic activity in the city as world leaders are attending the UN General Assembly for the annual debate portion, if you may. Second to the stage yesterday, after Ban Ki-moon called for the first time for Syria to be referred to the International Criminal Court, U.S. President Barack Obama followed him by taking on a confrontational tone in his speech, calling out Russia, China, and Iran for their destabilizing activities in various world conflicts and blatantly calling for President Bashar al-Assad in Syria to be removed. Obama opened his speech by directly decrying strong states, to quote him, that seek to impose their will on weaker ones, alluding to Russia and its support of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Now, to counteract that, Russian President Putin took to the stage and used his speech, the first, by the way, in a decade to the UN, to publicly support the embattled Syrian president. And of course, then there was Rouhani, the man whose Iranian pending deal with world powers is high on the General Assembly's agenda. Let's first have a listen to what the American president and the Russian president had to say to each other over that stage.
The United States is prepared to work with any nation, including Russia and Iran, to resolve the conflict. But we must recognize that there cannot be, after so much bloodshed, so much carnage, a return to the pre-war status quo. Yes, realism dictates that compromise will be required to end the fighting and ultimately stamp out ISIL. But realism also requires a managed transition away from Assad and to a new leader.
We think it is an enormous mistake to refuse to cooperate with the Syrian government and its armed forces who are violently fighting terrorism face to face. We should finally acknowledge that no one but President Assad's armed forces and Kurds militia are truly fighting the Islamic State and other terrorist organizations in Syria. We know about all the problems and contradictions in the region, but which were based on the reality.
On the basis of international law, we must join efforts to address the problems that all of us are facing and create a genuinely broad international coalition against terrorism.
That was the bickering that was over that stage at the UN General Assembly opening. Of course, the other speaker that everybody was waiting to listen to was Hassan Rouhani, the leader of Iran. He, of course, attacked Israel a couple of times, saying that the Zionist regime, to quote him, was the only impediment to secure the nuclear agreement. And the nuclear agreement was what the Iranian leader discussed the most. Let's have a listen.
After the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, Iran will stand ready to show that the practical path to security and stability is through the development that comes with economic engagement. Iran, with all of its economic and cultural potential, is well positioned to become a hub for export-oriented investment. Iran is also eager to show that we can all choose a lasting peace based on development and shared interests that will lead to a sustainable security rather than a volatile peace based on threats. We hope to engage with our neighbors in a wide range of social and economic cooperation, which will enable the achievement of political understanding and for even foster structural security cooperation.
We're joined in studio by I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev. Good morning to you. Of course, with us also Ali Waqid, I-24 News senior Middle East analyst. And we cannot, good morning, and we cannot do this without Channel 1 senior foreign affairs editor Oren Nahari.
Hello,
good morning. And of course, Amir Owen, senior defense analyst of Haaretz newspaper. Let's first, though, go to New York after I did all this introduction, where we're joined by Rebecca Shimoni-Stoyle, a Times of Israel correspondent, who is also at the UN General Assembly, well, actually in New York, covering the UN General Assembly. Rebecca, good morning to you. I think the million-dollar question maybe, well, for me, because I'm interested, but Putin and Obama, we've seen this bickering on that stage. It was basically two speeches that answered each other. The highlight is Syria. Assad has to go, says Obama. Putin says he must stay. Then they meet. What came out of that meeting? Do we know?
We know a bit. First of all, we know that it was a much longer meeting than was anticipated. It ran over an hour and a half, which I think few people expected. And apparently the conversation was, in fact, substantive. Now, it wasn't their first encounter today. In fact, today was kind of a day of chance encounters, whether they were on the podiums an hour off or whether they were sitting at lunch together with only Ban Ki-moon playing interception between the two of them as they stood for toast after toast. So there was a lot of Obama-Putin drama today. The capping point of which was, in fact, this conversation in the evening at which they discussed Syria, and they also discussed the Ukraine, which is a very sensitive subject, of course. No,
a very sensitive subject in that respect. When it comes to, ramifications, when we're looking at Syria and we're looking at Assad, what is the chatter in the UN halls, so to speak? Obama standing behind that line. We've heard it before from the United States administration when it comes to Assad having to go, but that doesn't seem likely, does it?
No, it does not. And especially because the general interpretation is that Putin's speech, which came just about an hour after Obama's, sort of performed an outmaneuvering of rhetoric. Because what Putin said was that he was actually interested in participating in a broad coalition that included the U.S. against ISIS in Syria. And in doing so, he actually made Obama seem like the one who was trying to be exclusive, who was trying to keep Russia out somehow, and that it was Putin who seemed like he was being the more inclusive supporter of a broad coalition, which is, of course, always the name of the game at the UN. It's the game that Rouhani plays so very well, of emphasizing the importance of broad coalitions, of international cooperation, of bridging gaps in order to find common goals.
In order to find common goals. Rebecca, I hope you can stay with us as we open this up for discussion. And actually, Ali, I'm going to start with you because the whole Assad issue is the thing that I'm fascinated by when we have these two leaders calling for the removal, well, one of them calling for the removal of Assad. Well, we don't think that that is likely. And in that respect, though, isn't that part of the deal, this Iranian deal at the end of the day? If Iran is behind Syria, if Russia is behind Syria, Assad's Syria, but the Americans don't want him to stay.
And when President Obama says that he is ready to collaborate with Iran and Russia to solve the Syrian problem, it is out of question that the first step to be a part of the solution is excluding Assad of any equation in the future Syria. And later on came the statement of the White House or the State Department about the meeting between Obama and Putin, and the fact that the United States is not putting as a condition the fact that President Assad should quit in order to launch a process to the Syrian. In general, I think that the Bashar Assad can be satisfied of what happened yesterday. The fact that Russia is going to the center of the international arena and maybe will be leading a new process regarding Syria, and already we are talking about Moscow 2 and Moscow 3 before going to Geneva to prepare a conference in Geneva, or talking about bringing all sides into Moscow. This is a very good sign for President Assad.
No, well, speaking of that, that actually leads me to Oren Nahari when I'm listening to, and especially also what Rebecca said, when it comes to Putin on that stage, it seems like it's another play, or then also offering to be part, or not excluding being part of a coalition that bombs ISIS. He's winning again in some ways, one may say, in the PR game, in the world PR game.
In the world PR game with his allies in the Middle East, he won this week, but we are talking long term. When the first coffins start to return to Moscow, and they will not because they have crematoriums that will burn the bodies in Damascus, in Syria, then it's a different ball game. He remembers Afghanistan and he remembers Chechnya, and he's got huge problems with it. Now, at the moment, yes, he's winning, and I see let's go back to history. Let's go back to the missile crisis. I remind you that at the short term, America won. There was a big declaration that Russia is retreating and will take its missiles out of Cuba. But part of the deal was that America, that the USA, will remove its own missiles from Turkey, which they were there. So I see in the cards, I see a potential, let's say, that there'll be a very silent agreement saying, okay, for the moment, let's do some quiet transition. And Obama didn't exclude it. He said it can be done. Not at the moment. It's not like he said with Mubarak, okay, when is today? Today is today.
Now. Right.
Now is now. Let's say in a period of 6 months' time, 9 months' time, with a sort of understanding with Russia that they'll have their own interests in mind over the United States, that they'll give them Latakia, Tartus, etc., their own Alawite enclave, but without Assad, because this Europe and America will not stand for, so something will have to be done concerning that. And I don't see Putin weeping at his heart or saying, okay, it's Assad or nothing. He can lift him and lift his support without batting an eyelid.
Well, Amir, I see you nodding, so I'll let you speak before I ask the question. Yeah.
Yael, you're an old New York hand, having lived there for many years. This is show business. And what you see on
stage,
the theater, is only theatricals. And behind the scenes, there's a lot of common denominators between the two. And the United States and Russia are allies and have been for at least 2 years. The chemical arms agreement, then the Iran agreement, and now this Syria agreement in the making, because ISIS is a much more ominous adversary now for both of them, for various reasons. And as Oren said, what we might have is Assadism without Assad. We don't need, and the Russians have always been careful to support regimes rather than rulers. If Afghanistan was mentioned, there was Hafizullah Amin, then was Babrak Karmal. It doesn't matter whether it's a particular person. And Bashar can go and will go, and some other Alawite general will be installed. And for Obama, leading from behind, of course, has for many years been the order of the day. They can live with each other. They will find common ground. And of course, they don't want China to be the other power butting in.
But from the sidelines. But it's all interlaced within the Middle East, the Middle East being the main agenda when it comes to the UN. Yesterday, I'm listening to what you're saying, but it leads me back to the Iranian deal, and that's tough, big on the agenda. So we had Rouhani standing on that stage. And before what we saw, which to me spelled a lot of messages, what we heard here in the studio, a lot of messages about how much money will flow from that deal into the Middle East. Rouhani spared no punches when it came to Israel. He stood on that stage, he pointed his finger, etc., etc. Is the Israeli administration, I mean, what are we expecting from Prime Minister Netanyahu in many ways on Thursday?
Well, first of all, I think Rouhani, probably Netanyahu at this moment, suffer from the same fate. They're not the main game. They're not the main show anymore. Rouhani and Obama, by the way, were supposed to catch a much more significant space in this UNGA debate, riding on the waves of the success of diplomacy. And Putin, by flexing his muscles in the Middle East ahead of the UN General Assembly, definitely changed the cards for that. Netanyahu will be leaving today for the United States. As usual, he will be late for the party. And this time, it also seems he's not going to be on sync on the topic, because Netanyahu will be arriving, and he has already been briefing that he intends to give a very strong speech, and he intends to convey the Israeli public's feelings about the Iran deal. So while Netanyahu will still be focusing on the Iran deal in his speech, it seems, then it seems like at least the international community is already on a totally different page. But one thing that should be pointed out, and that Netanyahu is probably satisfied from, is the very striking absence of the Palestinian issue from the opening night of the UN General Assembly yesterday. President Obama didn't mention it. President Putin didn't mention it. Even King Abdallah didn't mention it. He only mentioned a very short comment about Temple Mount. And Dilma Rousseff from Brazil and Rouhani did mention the Palestinian issue, but it was not even high. It wasn't even third or fourth on the agenda yesterday, and that, from Netanyahu's point of view, it's suddenly the world understands what I've been saying for years, that this is not the root of all evil in the Middle East.
No, but then Ali, I'm asking you. No, I'm asking you because we were sitting around this table several weeks ago, and everybody, well, not several, over the course of the year, everybody was expecting the Israeli-Palestinian issue to rise again at the UNGA come September. Doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you, I want to go back, if you allow, to what Amir said about Russia and the United States regarding Syria, and he ignored, in my opinion, the role of Iran and the fact that you cannot ignore Iran when you want to reach a compromise regarding Syria. And I don't see Iran giving very quickly the future of Bashar Assad, and this point should be taken into consideration. And regarding the Palestinian conflict, I totally agree with Tal. President Abbas received a very strong hit yesterday of the speeches of Putin, Obama, and the others. The Palestinians that thought that the last year that their campaign of internationalizing the conflict will succeed. The French withdrew at the last minute from their initiative, and the equation for Abu Mazen is or to really launch a bomb that says I'm putting the keys on the table, if it is on the personal level, or in revising the Oslo agreement, right, or in admitting that there is no way but to go into bilateral negotiations with Israel and even with Prime Minister Netanyahu.
It's not only diplomacy, it's perhaps even more so politics. And leaders are playing to their domestic audiences. If one may hazard the very wild guess, Netanyahu will get some positive response from the Israel Hayom Daily, the pro-Netanyahu paper, and he caters to the Israeli audience, not necessarily. He doesn't want to convince the audience there. Nobody is going to gasp and say, you know something? Netanyahu is right.
even if he comes with them props, you think?
Yeah, right. Even so.
And I want to mention one other thing. We are talking about, and Amir is absolutely correct, that every leader talks to his own audience. So, of course, right, Obama and Putin came to advance their own agendas concerning their most pressing problem at the moment. But other leaders from Africa, from Asia, from South America, each one of them will raise another question, another problem that will cater to their own audience, and some of them will care for things that apply to hundreds of millions of people. We haven't heard Modi yet, for example, and there are others who will say perhaps interesting things that not only apply to the Palestinian problem, the Iran bomb, or even Syria.
Yeah, but getting back to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, I think in order to appease President Abbas and to anticipate his speech, there was yesterday, it was not decided yesterday, but yesterday the sides decided that there will be tomorrow a meeting of the quartet in order to relaunch once again.
Yet again.
Yes.
The UNGA is the global town hall. Action is referred to the Security Council. There, the game is different.
It's completely different.
And one other thing. We are talking about the Palestinians since, of course, it applies to us. Ukraine. The word Ukraine was not mentioned. In the last year alone, we are talking something between 6,000 and 8,000 people dead. We are talking Ukraine government spending something like $5 million a day fighting the bear. And we are talking about Russians losing lives there. It's in Europe, not in the middle of Europe, but it's in Europe. And nobody says a word.
Because it seems like that was a sold game to begin with, and and those deals. I think that leads us to understand that the real deals, are being made behind the scenes, at the end of the day. But that we knew. I want to thank you all for joining me this morning as we move along. But back in the Middle East, clashes continued to shake Jerusalem's Temple Mount yesterday, with security forces locking horns with a group of Palestinians. Even if it's not at the top of the UN agenda's assembly discussion, it's still happening on the ground. Palestinians claim they attacked them after setting up makeshift fortifications at the flashpoint Al-Aqsa Mosque to prevent Jewish visitation to the holy but contested site. This has been going on for several weeks, especially in the High Holy Day seasons here in Israel. Let's take a look at the following report about what happened in Jerusalem yesterday and break it down.
Clashes erupted between Israeli security forces and Palestinian worshippers in Jerusalem's Flashpoint Al-Aqsa compound for a second day in a row. The fresh violence began on the last day of the Muslim festival of Eid al-Adha, which also marked the eve of the Jewish festival, Sukkot. Muslim worshippers say far-right Jewish activists are entering the compound for the week-long holiday, sparking confrontation at the highly contested site. Israeli police threw stun grenades as some Palestinians barricaded themselves inside the mosque, throwing stones and firecrackers.
The Muslims are forbidden to enter Al-Aqsa while they let the Jews enter. But actually, Al-Aqsa is for Muslims only, not for others.
Khaled is referring to the ban on Muslim males under the age of 50 from entering the site over the next few days. These restrictions are the most major on the compound we have seen so far this year. They've led to a tense calm in the city, tipped over by ongoing, but so far relatively minor confrontations.
Joined in studio now in this flash, amazing, transition of magic by Ami Kaufman for the press. And that said, looking at the piece of Jerusalem, we were discussing the UNGA here right now, but clearly Jerusalem still a flashpoint, as it continues to be. Nobody seems to care.
For the past few weeks, nobody seems to care.
Nobody seems to care. But you're here with other news.
Yeah, no, with all due respect to Jerusalem and with all due respect to the UNGA,
thank you.
Let's put things into perspective a little, Yael. I mean, basically, we're just a little marble floating in space here on Earth. And
what we do doesn't matter because there's water.
There's water on Mars, apparently. As NASA had an amazing announcement yesterday that they discovered water on Mars, liquid water. Now, if you remember, in 2008, NASA announced that it discovered ice. But now we're saying this is water in liquid form, kind of salty, briny water. It's briny.
I want to put this in perspective about what we know about Mars because no, seriously, water and not to be too listen. Water means life.
Water means life.
Water means life.
There could be a possibility for life.
There's a possibility of life.
But not only that, there could be. First of all, there could be a possibility for life, but there's a lot more reason now to send people to Mars to check if there is life there, and it could also mean that it would be easier to send astronauts there to live on Mars, to grow things on Mars, to create drinking water, to create fuel for spaceships. It would be a lot easier to just do this. And NASA is actually planning on sending people to Mars in the 2030s, apparently.
In the 2030s, in 2026 or something like that. There's this fascinating project of...
That's a private project.
That's a private project.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about something. There's this fascinating also private project. I don't know, by some, I think it's a European company.
I think so.
Or something like that to send that they've kind of...
They did a reality kind of thing. They chose
They chose 100 people now. It's like 100 people. 25 of them will be the finalists. And at 2026, they're supposed to go to Mars on a one-way ticket.
Yeah. But there's a lot of skeptics about that thing, if that thing's going to actually work.
Yeah.
And if they have enough money to do it, and the technology, I don't know.
And whatnot. But this is, it's
amazing.
Big
news.
It's
this
huge.
is really huge.
To me, this means that there might be life now still. I know that people are discounting that, but within water.
In Mars?
In Mars.
Yeah. Well, actually, billions of years ago, apparently, there were oceans on Mars.
Exactly.
And they froze over for some reason that nobody really knows.
Nobody really knows.
And,
maybe there's somebody underwater who could tell us there on Mars. Yes, moving along. There's one on Mars, so we have some place to move to. Yes.
The Volkswagen scandal just not abating. Okay, we have a few developments that I want to talk about. First of all, there was an investigation opened against the CEO that just resigned recently, Martin Winterkorn. According to authorities in Germany, the investigation will focus on allegations of fraud in the sale of cars with manipulated emissions data. And the aim of the investigation is to clarify the chain of responsibility. Basically, they want to know how much did this man know? Was he really responsible for it? Because he took charge of Volkswagen just about a year or maybe a year and a half before they put this software inside the cars. And I just want to remind our viewers that there's a software that recognized when a vehicle was being tested and reduced the amount of nitrogen oxide emitted. And then when the car went back on the road, it emitted about 40 times as much nitrogen oxide that was allowed.
Let me make it easier for you. This is a software that lies.
That cheated on huge amounts. And now the next development I want to tell you about is that we're getting an idea of how big it was, because we're seeing that it's in other brands giants of Volkswagen like Audi. Audi announced yesterday that 2.1 million of its cars around the world also had this software in their cars. And now we're hearing also reports from Israel that Skoda, which is also a subsidiary of Volkswagen, there are probably thousands of taxis here in Israel. Diesel cars are usually taxis or trucks or vans. Also might be. And lastly,
it's a cynical, sad world.
And lastly, heads are rolling, of course, in so far. But they're all so far they've appointed the head of Porsche, which is also a subsidiary of Volkswagen, head of Porsche Matthias Müller, who will now take the place as CEO from Martin Winterkorn.
Yes.
So.
Okay, I'm depressed.
Off to the States and a bit election news, if I may, which we all love, I think.
Yes.
Bill Clinton is coming out to pretty much defend his wife Hillary Clinton and the email scandal that the Republicans are pretty much throwing at her at every corner and every street that they can. He was interviewed by CNN, by Fareed Zakaria, and he said that I have never seen so much expended on so little. He said the other party doesn't want to run against her, and if they do, they like her as mangled up as possible. No. And when he was asked if he thinks that it's a Republican plot, he says, no, I'm not going there because that's what the, it makes it sound like it's a secret. Yeah. There are lots of people who wanted there to be a race for different reasons, and they thought the only way they could make it a race was a full-scale frontal assault on her. And so this email thing became the biggest story in the world.
And and you correct me if I'm wrong, because you're more apt on these, on the U.S. elections, that it's not taking off the scandal, the email scandal, as maybe some at the GOP would have hoped it would.
Well, I don't know if it's taking off or it's not taking off, but if you look at the results, I mean, Hillary Clinton's numbers are dropping steadily for the last 3 months. She's lost about a third of her support, and a recent poll shows her it's a national poll, shows that Bernie Sanders is trailing by only 7 points nationally.
But I don't know if we can. Critics may argue that at fault is her campaign and how it's run, or the message is not being put through. I don't know if it's specifically this email scandal, which again, this is my personal opinion, feels like people are trying to drag something where there isn't.
Definitely. There's not a lot of meat there.
There's not a lot of meat there.
There's only gefilte fish, right?
Gefilte fish, yes. And quickly.
Hillary Clinton, she, I forget his name, Xi Jinping. The president of China was there when the Pope was there as well. He attended this meeting, this UN meeting on women. And Hillary Clinton tweeted this tweet that I want you to see.
Yes.
She hosting a meeting on women's rights at the UN while persecuting feminists? Shameless. This got the whole internet in a fit. You can see some from our next tweets that people reacted. Hillary Clinton, thank you for shining a light on China's persecuted feminists. And another one said that it's more than shameless. But the Chinese language editorial, the Global Times, said that Clinton called it a new low by Clinton and compared it to the demagogue Donald Trump. It seems that Hillary, eager to keep a competitive edge in the game, has also resorted to these ignominious shenanigans. Despite her political acumen as former Secretary of State and Senator, she is using the language of Trump to cast herself in the role of a rabble-rouser.
Okay, American elections roundup. When we get back, ecological news. Stay with us, the environment on the news. It's still Tuesday, September 29th, 2015, and I knew that without asking you.
You don't have to ask me each time. I mean, you can...
You can do your work.
You
can do your work.
Look at your...
And this is still the morning edition on I-24 News, and I'm very happy because I've got a majorly intelligent, wonderful woman in studio with me. To share the joy that is Amikov. I'm just kidding.
Wow. That's a party.
I thought to share the joy that is the environment.
There's the environment. No, that would have been the right transition. Nice. Environmental specialist, guru, mama, whatnot.
Yes.
Let's start with the Pope.
Yes.
I'm going to lead to that. He spoke a lot about the environment.
Yeah.
People seem to not listen.
Yes.
But let's take a close look at what was said last week in that respect. Go.
So he's really amazing. He's like our biggest supporter. It's the biggest celeb ever that is talking about the environment.
But isn't it the best thing that could have happened to the environment? It really is.
It's really amazing. Okay, so last month also, he started with he wrote an encyclical in the Vatican magazine, and he wrote like an amazing text. It's one of the profounding texts of the environment about how we treat the universe and everything. Then he had this tour in the USA, and he went to the Senate and House of Representatives. You know, it's a huge thing, and said practically, I support Obama. You should all do the same. Come on, Republicans, you know, leave the room with your climate denial.
Exactly. What do you mean? Yeah, creationism. Look at what's happening to the ozone.
Yeah. Exactly. And, you know, and it's a turmoil in the U.S., and it's like, you know, it's geopolitical thing, it's environmental diplomacy.
When the man of God comes out and says, there is something happening to the environment.
And it's man-made.
Yeah,
this is the most important thing that he said, and we should do something about it. And there is something to do about it. And he finished this part of the environment with, I'm sure we can change the world, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. And so, you know, James Inhofe, Jeb Bush, all the Republicans that are against this, they are, you know, they all have comments. He should deal with family and things of religious and things like that.
Things he don't say about the Pope.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
he should mind his own business. That's kind of what they say.
Exactly.
Yes.
And he repeated the same message at the UN, where he said that the Paris Convention that will come in this December will actually change things. He's like very positive about it, and we're all happy about his positivism.
Positivism, definitely.
Yes.
No. It's a push. It's a definite push. I'm wondering if people will listen, but I think, as you said, it's the biggest advocate that the environmental movement could have gotten.
There was a really good article at the New York Review of Books that said that no one, you know, today there is no one who can actually speak to everyone except the Pope.
Except for the Pope.
Yeah. So he has 1.2 billion believers, and, you know, all the rest.
And he's loved. I mean, you know, the thing is, there's this consensus. He's very Jean-Paul II in that way. He's kind of revived the fact that the Pope is like a rock star after the German guy. And, it's quite amazing. Yes.
Yeah. So, talking about nice guys, and now we're going to the bad guys. There are two really huge stories in the U.S., in the world, and environment, dealing with big companies that have done really bad things for the environment. This is Volkswagen, of course, and Exxon. It's another story. But let's begin with Volkswagen.
No, please, let's begin with Volkswagen. Ami's happy. Yeah.
So they cheated, you know, the tests, the computers that they put in the cars that are sold to the U.S. And now everybody is against them. And we actually have been known since yesterday that they're actually going to press charges in Germany because of that. The CEO, he resigned.
There's
and also two engineers.
Class action lawsuit, if not worldwide. I wouldn't be surprised.
So two engineers are also to be held responsible for that. And the environmentalists are going crazy. They are celebrating this thing. You know, Greenpeace is demonstrating all over the place. And
now we know it. You know, with the subsidiaries as Audi.
Skoda.
To me, what scares me is that we just know about this, but one can only imagine, you know, the type of lies, the type of software that people are inventing in order to cheat the environment and kill the world. Yes.
This is exactly what leads us to Exxon's story. It's a story that was published at the New Yorker, but it's actually a story of the Inside Climate website, the one that won the Pulitzer, and everyone was like, who won the Pulitzer? So they actually...
True. Yeah, the Exxon story.
Told the story. They found documents, and they interviewed ex-workers of Exxon, and they found out that Exxon knew about climate change. They knew that oil could, heat the planet 40 years ago. This is 10 years before Al Gore's famous
speech.
And 10 years before NASA even knew about it, and they knew about it, and they knew that it could be changed, and there is something to be done about it, but they didn't do anything about it. And I think now it's the phase where we will start to see lawsuits against big companies that, really ruined our earth, and now
the accountability. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the days of Enron.
Exactly.
Enron in the early 2000s. But to think of, class action lawsuits, what will this do? These companies, I'm assuming, can survive these lawsuits, do we think? I don't know.
I don't know if they're too big to fall. I think, Enron fell.
Enron fell. That's true.
I think we're moving from state level and the UN to actually companies, real people, and faces, names.
Faces, names, and accountability. Very, very, very true. Yes.
And talking about cars, there is no Cars Days in many places in the world. Also Yom Kippur in Israel, in Bogota, and they're always. The research are so certain that the air pollution is decreasing in those days.
Tell me what happens
drastically.
Yes.
92% of nitrogen during Yom Kippur we are saying goodbye to 92% of air
on that
pollution.
day. On that day, and it's amazing because on Yom Kippur, and just to explain to those non-Jewish viewers, a day where Jews don't just fast, but if you live in Israel, then there are no cars on the streets. It's a no-car day.
Yeah.
Nobody drives.
But there are similar days in other places. It's not a religious holiday.
They just do a no-car day.
Exactly. In Bogota, in Brazil, there are some places. In the U.S., there are some cities.
And you feel it in the air, don't you? Just by mid-afternoon, you all of a sudden see that. I mean, that you can see better.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And now, because it's so successful, in means of air pollution, people are trying to, or municipalities are trying to think how they can reduce cars in the city center. So it's closing city centers for cars, or not letting odd numbers or even numbers to enter the city in some days. And there are many, many ways you can actually, put the cars away from city centers and help the people.
And help the environment.
These days are actually helping this campaign and this
Amen.
process.
I'm just wondering if if the larger public, if people will go for more of those throughout the world, or am I being optimistic? It's just yes. Okay.
Yep. And speaking about creativity and environment, in Paris, because of the December convention that will come soon, there are 360 organizations that are gathered in a nice castle outside of Paris for 5 weeks to try and create things that are environmental in a way.
And it helps if you're in a castle in France.
Exactly.
Yes.
And they are all, being funded and subsidized by companies. So you can see domes there, for example. You can see a solar thing that you can just put in a village and it will, light the whole village.
Wow.
Another nice project is a shower that recycles the water, so you can take a shower forever and it will be the same amount of water.
The same amount of water, just wow.
Here you can see that. Another one is, of course, a filter for water that is very cheap and very small and can help villages and places where water are.
Where water is. But you would agree, I know it says somewhere, wouldn't you agree that there is some sort of, not just a trend of awareness, but with all these reconnaissance, when we're looking at companies admitting things coming out, whatnot, there might be, when we are going towards something slightly more optimistic when it comes to maintaining the earth.
Yes.
Okay.
And they will, of course, show and exhibit all these things at the convention, and companies are welcome to buy.
So are countries.
Yeah.
Amen. That was optimistic. I don't know if you can top that because she's smart and she's gorgeous.
By the way, I heard that big news that Shell decided not to drill in the Arctic yesterday, which is, I guess, a win for environmentalists that were really against that.
We are, trying to figure out what
what
really
exactly
means.
That means.
Yeah. Well, I heard they said it wasn't really it wasn't really good financials for them. They weren't going to make a lot of money, but the environmentalists are spending it their way.
Yeah, of course.
Interesting.
But good news today, for the environment.
For environment, at least, not for Syria, but
it's all thanks to the Pope, we're all blessed.
Amen. Okay, time for the web review. It's the Spiral Viral. I don't know how you can top this optimistic news.
I have no intention of topping Netta.
Not a competition.
I know, where my place is on the ladder.
Yes.
Trevor Noah. It's a big name for Trevor Noah, who replaced Jon Stewart actually for the first time.
Monumental. We were going to dissect it when it happened, but here we go.
Apparently he had a good show and a very good monologue. I haven't had a chance to see it myself yet, but I'm definitely going to, when I go home, going to see this. But I like the way he gave a tribute to Jon Stewart. Says Jon Stewart was more than just a late night host. He was often our voice, our refuge, and in many ways our political dad. And it's weird because dad has left, and now it feels like the family has a new stepdad, and he's black. So that's a nice...
take that, white America. Yeah. Okay.
Nice punch there. We're wishing him good luck. I think he's going to do a great job.
Amen.
We were speaking about the Pope, and I'd like to start with the Pope and a nice little video of when the Pope was in Philadelphia, and he was in his Pope mobile, and what happened when he saw some woman holding a baby who was dressed as the Pope. Let's see what happens.
Let's take a look.
Is that a weird... a stranger comes up and takes your baby...
I know. Goes a stranger and a big security guy. Would you give Adam away to...
No.
No.
Even to an environmentalist.
Even to environmentalist, like, here, take my baby.
That's a bit odd, wasn't it?
Wow, yes, okay.
The kid's name was...
quite embarrassed.
Yeah,
what do I do with this screaming thing?
Gave him a little kiss, though, on the head. Her, actually. Quinn Madden, that's the name. Also known as Baby Pope.
So it's a feministic...
It's a feminist, yes, Baby Pope, okay. Ed.
Another viral video. This one reminds me of a Katy Perry song, Hear Me Roar, or I forget how the tune goes.
I'm quite horrified that you know a Katy Perry song.
Okay, listen closely, and pump up the volume for this one, all right, folks?
Okay, pump
all right,
up
let's
the
hear
volume,
this one.
please, on your TV sets and computers.
Can you hear that little one roar?
Yeah, ouch. That's the king of the jungle, folks.
Okay. A little slow start there, kiddo. You might want to work on...
yeah, work on that, honey.
Get a little better.
I don't think they'll be following.
I don't know if he had breakfast.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, make fun.
He has a big future in front of him.
He does.
You think so?
He does.
Here's a genius. Here's a genius that's probably going to make a lot of money. A guy named Jason Hernandez from San Diego who invented the pooch selfie. Let's take a picture. Take a look at this. This is a contraption that you put on your phone. It's a piece of plastic. All it does is it holds a ball.
Holds the ball.
Costs $13, and the dogs are mesmerized by the tennis ball, and they look at the camera, and you got your great pooch selfie.
It's also good for babies.
You might be on you should make your own invention there.
I should.
And make some money there.
With
selfie.
I'm just
with a Mickey Mouse.
With a Mickey Mouse. I'm just amazed at the world we live in. But
isn't it?
The man who invented this is a millionaire now. You know that.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
The Frozen thing, for
yes, Frozen, definitely.
Look at the Frozen Eliza.
Anna going, let it go.
Yeah. And Elsa. Yeah.
Elsa.
Yeah.
Speaking of babies, a rare photo from the Clinton clan. This is Charlotte. This is Chelsea's. It just turned 1 year old, and is a rare photo of bedtime reading.
Wow, and she's named after the next
princess,
queen. Yeah, I was about to say the princess.
Well, actually, she's older, right?
She's older. She's older.
Right.
She was the first Charlotte.
And to celebrate this, Hillary Clinton, the grandmother, put out a campaign video that has to deal with grandmothers and granddaughters.
We're gonna have to watch. Yeah.
When I look at my new granddaughter, I think to myself, we're going to do everything we can to make sure she has opportunities in life. But what about all the kids? You should not have to be the grandchild of a former president to know that you can make it in America. That will be my mission as president, to make sure I do everything I can every single day to knock down the barriers, to open up the doors, so that every child has a chance to live up to his or her God-given potential. I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
Little tribute to baby Charlotte.
Yeah, no, I mean, Netta, I don't know if it's because listen, there's a lot of criticism about her campaign and whatnot, but I got to tell you, this, I'm moved by words like that.
Yeah.
Like that? Yeah. That was a good speech.
And also, you don't have to be the granddaughter of an ex-president. This is a very good sentence.
It's a good thing.
It is.
I want, it looked like sunshine of optimism. Yes.
But the numbers are still dropping.
It's her red shirt.
The numbers are still
dropping. That's a Bernie man.
Yes,
and
the Clooneys are a bit in trouble. Last one. Clooneys are
finally, thank God.
Yeah, I mean, we're hearing about, or as I say, Amal Amaluddin, who is married to a famous actor.
Thank you. That's the way we should look at it. And to me,
their neighbors.
Her
family name, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit more than him. But yes,
their neighbors in the Berkshire village of Sonning, near Reading, England, are very angry because they're doing massive renovations at the place, and everybody's angry because they're turning the village into a construction site.
Yes,
and everybody's mad at the Clooneys now, and they're claiming that they can't walk their dogs anymore.
You know what this is? You know what is this?
Rolling a joint?
What is this? No, this is not rolling a joint. It's not a rolling a joint. This is the world's smallest violin.
Exactly.
Really, I'm very sad for the Clooneys and their big mansion. All the time we have for today. Of course, tune in tomorrow morning for another morning edition on I-24 News, the way you should start your day every single day. Stay tuned for the news.